growing up, I wanted to go to cooking school. I asked my mother, and she comes from the hospitality industry, so she said, I don't think you have the hustle for it or the chops. I think she thought I was very precious. For me, that was so important, just to have the satisfaction of waking up in the morning and being happy to start my day. And I was seeing that in food. Now, one of the things my parents always talk about is that you came from a different country. You came and you were able to kind of build a space for yourself and be successful. And so they have pride in that.
I'm Grant Crilly. Join me as I travel across the country to meet chefs who are shaping our food culture. We learn about their ups, downs, successes, and heartbreaks. Where they come from, how they got here, and where they're going. Every route is different on the road to cooking. Nik Sharma is one of these really cool talents who brings some real hard science to the kitchen. He's published books, he's got a pretty successful blog, and a good social following. I'm really excited to get to know him and see what makes him tick. Getting a sense for his cooking style.
We're at my favorite grocery store, Indian grocery store in
Yeah.
LA, India Sweets and Spices. And it's colorful in just every sense. All your senses are on overload.
It's the stuff people can't get on camera, but you smell so
Absolutely.
many amazing flavors and your stomach instantly starts growling.
I grew up in Bombay, India on the West Coast, and I came from a family where my parents came from two different cultures. My father's from the north, he's Hindu. My mother's Roman Catholic, she's from Goa. So this is the prepared food section where they cook food from the north and the south of India. And so you've got the sweets.
Yeah, all sweets.
All sweets, all snacks on top, which you would have with a cup of tea or coffee. I thought it was a disadvantage to grow up in a bicultural household because the faiths are different, the food is different. You didn't know where you were, you didn't have a lot of friends that came from a bi-faith or bicultural household. And so I kind of had that experience of not fitting in. This is the incense section, and what I actually buy from here is kind of ridiculous.
Oh yeah?
There is an anti-jealousy one. There's there's a good luck one, an anti-jealousy one, and positivity one. So I buy those three so to keep all the bad energy away and always just have good thoughts. Basically, the short take here is that there's a fragrance for whatever fragrance you might like in life.
Energy that you're trying to get in.
Coming out was difficult, but it was something that I knew I had to do. I didn't want to be that person that had to pretend in a marriage. I didn't want to be forced into a society and live a certain way. I eventually came to America. I came for grad school and I studied to be a molecular geneticist. At the time, I was so entrenched in academia, I was doing nothing else. So I was in the lab during the day and then in school in the evening. At the time, I really loved to cook, and that was a way for me to be creative.
Oh, yep, starting to smell herby.
Yep.
This is cool.
Dried turmeric
Wow. Ooh, that's heavy.
And here's another ingredient that people rarely use here is black cardamom. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in saying green cardamom and black cardamom when I write recipes, just for this reason.
They're both delicious, but both very different.
Very different, yeah. And you would use this more for savory applications, this savory and sweet.
Oh, I never thought about that, yeah. One of the things I love about a grocery like this or Indian cuisine is just like it's everything and just get it all in there. Everything's just so in your face and so thick with experience and sensory overload. But it's what makes it so amazing.
In a way, it's a good metaphor for what the country is also, because you have so many things happening at the same time. There is chaos, and in the chaos there is beauty that kind of comes to the surface. And that's how I feel when I come to the Indian store. There's just like so much happening. When I was in the lab waiting on experiments, and sometimes my experiments would take hours for something to finish, I was primarily drawn to food blogs more than anything. In many ways, it seduced me. And I thought, what if I could learn to photograph like that? What if I could also write recipes that were either connected to my history or to my experiences in America? And I think in many ways, cooking is just a tastier form of science. When I decided to quit, I had spoken to my husband about it. He was very supportive. And I think the fact that he's probably not Indian kind of helped. When I told my parents, they freaked out. It was a much more scarier process to tell them I was leaving a stable career than it was to come out. And I think that actually took them they took a longer time to accept that. Yeah.
Heading over to Nik's. He's been on the West Coast for a while, now he's in LA. So, we all know that where you live will impact how you cook, what you cook. I love your neighborhood. You just moved here?
Weather's just so nice.
Yeah.
Food's great.
Yeah.
I can't complain. And I feel on the West Coast in general, you have a lot more representation of like different cuisines from all over the world. You've got the small markets and all that stuff. So for me personally, even as a cook, I love that.
I actually feel like LA's become like one of the better eating regions. There's so much diversity and high quality. Like the average stuff you can get, whether it's like Korean barbecue or Indian or even just some like really good sushi, if it's the average quality, is pretty freaking great.
One of my favorite places is Jengalio Hut, and they make only this one beautiful flatbread. Mixed greens, spinach, dill, mint, all of these things go in there, a little bit of salt and pepper, her secret spice blend, tiny bit of olive oil, and that's it. They refuse to make any other combination of it, and I think that makes it so successful and special. When I moved to LA, it's just so fascinating to see different communities from different cultures here, all of them coexisting and being successful. Coming from a bicultural household, something that I thought was a disadvantage and that I was very ashamed of, I am actually really thankful that I had that experience, and I was bringing all of that into my own cooking at home. I like Dutch babies because texturally they're very light. Kind of a cross between a souffle and a pancake. I feel it looks so fancy, but it's not fancy. It's one of those things that you can put together quickly, and people are impressed when they come.
Yeah, the guests are like, whoa.
What is that? Yeah. And in the Dutch baby, we're using eggs, butter, flour, very tiny amount of sugar, milk. You could use flavoring ingredients in the batter. So today I'm going to use cardamom. You can use vanilla, you can use mint, you can use coconut, and then you blend it all together. You want all that air to get incorporated into the batter because that is what creates the texture when it rises. I'm just going to add butter. First of all, get a metal pan. Don't use glass. Yes, you can do it in glass, but it doesn't rise as well. There's a little bit of science there because the metal ions on the plate, on the cake pan, those actually bond much better with flour. And the protein's also in flour, so it holds much better. If you use non-stick, it won't work as well. It actually collapses quite easily. So the cake pan is hot, and I'm going to pour the batter that was made in the blender, and then this, as soon as it hits, it starts to cook. Stick it into the oven so you get these beautiful light fluffy edges. And then you serve it with something sweet and maybe yogurt, creme fraiche. There's just so many ways to make it your own. And the best part is that it's so simple.
What Nik's trying to do is this kind of really amazing intersection between discovering himself and making whatever he wants that inspires him. And I think it's really interesting to see him bring that to his community.
I cook the food I want to cook. I'm not trying to meet anyone's expectations except my own. And as a cook, you also have to learn how to forgive yourself. You also have to be patient with yourself and learn that you can't please everyone. To me, at the end of the day, is the most important thing is that I have to be happy with myself. That would make me feel rewarded at the end of my career.